All right, now we're ready to cut dovetails. Everything's prepped, everything's square. Cut the length, the height is determined, all of that. So to cut dovetails, you're gonna need a combination square, a T-bevel or sliding bevel, a marking gauge, a mechanical pencil, a marking knife, and a pair of dividers. First, we need to have a discussion on where the dovetails go. You have a tail board and a pin board. The tails always go on the short side. Why? Well, if you have a box that's this wide and this deep, then when you pile something in it, the pressure, if you fill that thing up, is going to push against the back and front walls, because these short sides mean that there's less room this way. So it's not going to go that way. All the pressure and all the tension is going to go like that. And the dovetail is cut like this so that it resists pull that way. That's why this is used as a drawer joint or a box joint, because it resists pull. You're constantly pulling on that board, and the dovetails go in the front and the back of the drawer so that it resists the pull. Okay, so the short sides are going to be dovetails, and we're going to cut the dovetails first. Now, I have it numbered, so 1 and 2 are going to go together, right? So what I want to do is I want to match this board to this board, and this board to that board. If this came off a machine, I wouldn't have to do this. I could just measure the thickness of this board. Everything would be the exact same thickness, and we'd be rocking. But this is hand cut and hand prepped, and these sides are not going to be exactly the same in thickness. There's going to be variances. So what I want to do, I want to transfer the thickness of this board to here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to lay this on top of a flat surface. My bench, a lot of people use their bench. My bench is an outdoor bench. It may or may not be flat. I'm not going to trust it. I'm going to trust the piece that I prepped to be flat. And I'm going to take my marking gauge and loosen it like this. I'm going to set this, and I'm going to find like pretty much the center of this board, and the reason for that is that if there's a variance from here to here, I want to get the average. So I'm going to let that drop down there, and I'm going to tighten that up, okay? And then I'm going to take my pin board I'm going to put the marking gauge there. And I'm going to mark this line. I want it fairly deep so that I can see it. And on this pin board, I know that this shoulder is going to be seen, so I'm not going to mark across the pin board. I'm going to come to the other side. I'm going to make that mark, right? So now what I want is I want the thickness of this transferred to this board. And so I'm going to go do the same exact thing. I'm going to lay that there like that. I'm going to loosen that. I'm going to lay this on the board somewhere in the center. And I'm going to lock that down. Once again, if my boards were prepped by hand or by machine, I wouldn't have to worry about it. But they are not. They are prepped by hand. And so what I'm going to do now, so I'm going to transfer those lines. Right? And because I'm going to cut this off, I'm going to bring this around. Like that. I'm going to make my mark again. And since this is the tail board, we're going to mark that all the way around. So now what I'm going to do, just to make it easier for you to see what's going on, is I'm going to run a pencil line in all of this. You can do this with a wooden style marking gauge, but I think for dovetail layout, the wheel style is much better suited to that. I'm going to mark this line. That one thing. This is not the finest pencil. This piece is chipping out, but I'm not going to worry about it. That's not the finest pencil lead you can get. So now we need to lay out the tails on this board, and I'm going to, where I've got them numbered, that's going to be the outside face. So when I put them together, they're going to go like that, 1 to 2, correct? So we're going to put this with the front facing me in the vise. Dovetails have an angle to them, and you'll hear a lot of people say 1 to 6, 1 to 7, 1 to 8. Those are the 3 common angles on a dovetail. We're going to use 1 and 7 on this just as an example. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my combination square, and I've already got it marked 7 inches. I'm going to put it on this board here, and I'm going to mark a line up here like that. I'm going to do that right there so that I know where 7 is. Okay, and if I lay this alongside that, this is 1 inch. That is 1 inch long, or 1 inch wide. What I'm going to do now, in order to determine a 1 and 7 pitch, I'm going to take this, I'm going to start down here at this, where this meets, and I'm going to join that up with where I marked that 1 inch from this line. Then I'm just going to go right like that. That is my 1 7 pitch. And then I'm going to take this, and we're going to line that up. And we're going to tighten this down. And that's my 1 7 pitch or angle for the dovetail. I just leave it like that so I know that's always going to be my dovetail angle for this project. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put this board with the face, outside face, toward me in this vise. All right, hopefully you can see this. A lot of people will take and just go 1/4 inch in. I tried that in the past, and I think that leaves the pin board a little bit too fragile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to set my combination square at 5/16. And I'm going to make my little tick mark here. And my little tick mark there. And I'm going to take and put my square here. And I'm going to mark my line square across. You get me? And I can come back, if I'm going to use this square and I can come back and find that graduation real easy because it's on the blooming ruler of this square. So I don't have to worry about it. It's there. Actually, what I tend to do is take another set of these that's smaller and make this setting on the choose 5/16 on the ruler and never change that the pair of dividers. But the required tools that I gave you, I only specified 1 set of dividers so you can buy a good set, and you can do this with 1 set. Now what I want, this is nominally 10 inches wide. My box is going to be 10 inches tall. Okay, so I don't want big huge dovetails, but I really don't want super tiny dovetails. I think dovetails around 1 inch, because the dovetails on my tool chest are like 3-4 inches. This is about 1 inch and 1/16, something like that. I'm going to try that first, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 brings me out to the end of that board. Now, however much this hangs past this mark I made for this side of the pin board, you multiply that like 8 times, so that would be a gap like that. Well, I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it in about halfway, and I'm going to march down here again. I'm not pressing, I'm not making any marks. I'm just using the tip of the divider to pivot on. So that's 1 dovetail, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is too many. So what I want to do is I want to make mine just a little bit, because I want to do 6 or 8 dovetails. I don't want to have to cut a huge bunch of them, but I want to make it proportional to the box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's exactly where I want it. You see that space? That's going to double as I begin to do this. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go to this end, because we've got our spacing now. 1, 2, 3, we're pressing it in now. 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So we have that, and then we're going to come back. We're going to place it here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so I have my dovetails marked out with space between them. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my pencil I'm going to put it in that mark with the pen. There's 1. I'm going to put it in that mark. 2. One of the things about these mechanical pencils is that the lead breaks really easy, but they make up for that because they stay a particular thickness, as opposed to a standard pencil that doesn't. So you see what we're doing. We're marking the dovetail on the top here. And I'm gonna, when I get close to this edge where it won't be, I see how it's hanging halfway over there, it can do that number. I'm gonna flip it over, and I'm gonna do it this way so that I can use this flat to register my square on and keep it square. Alright, so we have these marked out. Now what I want to do, I have this marked. What I want to do now is I want to get my angle for my dovetails. I'm going to pull that down to the line. I'm skipping that when I'm getting the ones that are on this angle. If you understand what I mean, I'll show you in a minute. We're going to turn like we did before. Sorry thing. All right, so I've got all the lines leaning back. I marked here. I skipped this and marked there, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to mark the other direction. I'm going to put my pencil on that line. So you see what I'm doing now? So you see now, I'm going to mark my waist. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dovetails. What I just want to double check the spacing. Yeah, that's all, about 5/16 at the baseline. So I know my 6mm chisel will get in that. That's why I wanted to make sure I had that much room. But that's how you lay them out. And I have 8 dovetails. This will remain exactly locked in, exactly like this. I'll come exactly the 5/16 on either side, and these will remain locked down so that I have the exact same dovetails all on all 4 corners of this box. So now I have my dovetail saw. What you should do, I use a rag in a can oiler, but what this is for, you can use wax as well, paraffin wax, like canning wax. But I'm going to run this along my saw plate to lubricate. And what I want to do, I want to cut this. And so what I'm doing, is I don't want to take this line out. I want to saw right up to the line, but I want to leave some line. I generally would start over here, but for purposes of this video so that you can see, I'm going to start on this end. And what I'm going to do first, I want to put that down in this vise so that it's low, I don't get a lot of vibration. And what I'm going to do, you want to cut on the waist side. That's where I marked all these X's at. But you don't want to take the line. You want to take the saw and get right up on the line. I'm using my thumb. I'm pinching the wood and squeezing. See how if I squeeze that? Okay, so that I have that exactly where I want it. And I'm going to go straight across first. So I've made that line. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay in that curve. And it's just take it easy, take it slow. You can drop it a little bit, but leave most of the blade in this curve that you've made so that you can keep the saw straight. Come on down, but you're leaving the line. You understand? So I'm going to come down to my baseline, and I'm going to look real careful at that back side. I've tried to keep my blade slightly parallel as I can, so I don't go over that baseline with that. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to lay up right up next to that line, but not to take it out. You want to leave some of that line. This is not a race. Take your time. We're going to come right along. We're going to line it up. We want to leave some line. Remember, all you want to leave is the line. You don't want to leave any waste on this side, and you don't want to go across the line so that you wipe out the line. And you don't have to worry, like, I can hold it straight like that because the saw is going into the waste here. When I get that line established really well so that I have a good curve in it, now I'm going to angle my saw to fit that, to match that 71 angle. And we'll come down to my line. I'm doing everything I can not to go over the line in here, but this is the back side. It will be interior to the box, and it won't be seen as easily, but you still don't want to screw it up if you can help it. So let's do it again. All right. And the thing it is if you're not dead on these lines, don't worry too much about it, because these are going to be fit to the pins. The pins are going to have to be more accurate than this, because you're going to fit these to the pins. So whatever shape these take will be transferred to the pins. So it's not something you don't have to stress these too much. But you want to be as accurate as you can possibly be. And you want to leave the line. Every time you cut, you should do everything you can for accuracy, to achieve accuracy. An accurate, a straight and accurate cut. But I'm not running a race. Most of us are going to do this just for the sheer fun of it. And so I'm not going to fear any of that. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to start on the opposite side. I'm going to leave just a line, not any of the waste behind. I'll follow that line down to the baseline. That's that line you marked for the thickness of the wood down here. If you look, you can see that I've cut these dovetails, but you can see the line left, And I just cut waste. If we flip it over, you see I stayed relatively well on my baseline. I missed it. I went a little bit over here and a little bit over there, but you will not see that in the final. So now we have to cut these shoulders. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put this in the vise low, like that, right? So you can see the line that I have to cut to. I'm going to take this chisel and I'm going to do one of those numbers. And then what I'm going to do, I don't know if you can see it or not, I'm going to lay this in that knife line. And I'm going to follow this baseline. Like that. And I'm going to take and just lightly pair that. You see I got a little bit there. What I want to do is I want to clean that out of this corner. So this corner is nice and clean. There's nothing in there that will stop I want to take my time and get all of that out of there, because I don't want it to stop the thing from seating. I'm going to flip it over. And we're going to repeat that procedure. One of the things you should understand, hang on a minute. Alright, I've made that little thing to guide my sawing is basically what I'm doing. But I don't want to like let it lay hard over that line. I'm going to take my thumb and I just want the edges of the teeth to caress that line, so that I can cut straight down that baseline. And you, there, like that. And I'm just taking the fuzziness, basically, off of that part of the joint. That's all that I'm, and cleaning out this corner so that everything will made up and fit up really well. That's all that I'm doing. Want everything out of this corner so it's absolutely lovely, beautiful, and clean. Alright, so the shoulders are done. So now we got to take care of this waste. One of the things you should have had, that I should have told you you needed and I didn't, was a coping saw. We're going to use that now. When I said that I didn't tell you you needed this, I mean at the beginning of this video I didn't mention this. But this is in the required list of tools. What I want to do is I want to take this waste out. And I could, in actuality, I need to turn that around where the outside is facing me again. Like I said, that's what I want. I could chisel that, but it's much easier just to take a coping saw, and I'm gonna hang down for that corner, and I'm gonna be careful on this back side not to screw up the dovetail. But I'm gonna remove that waste very carefully, right? You see what I'm doing? I'm putting it in that that cut, and I'm turning it and aiming it down to that corner. I'm kind of hedging my bet by turning it like that till I get to it, and then I'll straighten the saw out like that, because I'm not trying to cut this part of the dovetail by accident. Right? And you can get kind of close to it after you've had some practice. You can get pretty close to that baseline if you want. I'm not trying to right now. I want to kind of show you how to handle that. Just be really careful, because we're not trying to damage anything. We want to as nice of a joint as we can get. So we're just notice how I'm angling it till I get to this corner. Then I'm going to look behind me. I'm going to straighten it. I'm going to go real slow, real easy. So I'm not trying to tear anything up, overcut, or anything of the sort. The thing with this, what you should understand is that there's a big mystique about dovetails. Dovetails were a utilitarian joint. They were a joint, they were the box joint, they were the drawer joint. And a lot of times, like with drawers, you wouldn't even see them. So they weren't really persnickety about dovetails. In the modern day we are. And I'm not saying anything bad. That's good. We should try to strive for the finest work that we can possibly do. I'm just saying, don't worry about it. If they're a little bit ugly, they will still work just fine. So what we're going to do, I'm going to start from the front. What I'm doing, I'm not going to set this chisel right dead in this baseline, because if I do, the chisel has a bevel on it, and that bevel will be facing that way, and it will push the chisel back like this, and you'll end up going past your baseline. So what you want to do is I'm going to choose about half of this waste. I'm going to go about halfway down. And I'm going to try to split that again. And so now I'm going to put the chisel in the baseline. What I'm going to do, instead of being straight up, I'm going to tilt it forward just a degree or two, so that when I drive that chisel, I'm creating a little bit of an undercut here in the middle of this gully. What that'll do for me is it'll help me to get that to close up really well. Now there's not very much here, so I'm going to lay that right dead in that baseline. I'm going to go about halfway, or thereabouts. I'm going to take half the material, like that. Okay, now I've got enough here where I know, enough going where I know if I tap this, it's not going to push my chisel back, and I'm going to tilt a little bit the top of the chisel that way, just about a degree, because I want that hollow, that little valley in that gully. It doesn't need to be much, but I want a little bit. Once again, I've got a lot here, so about half. And in the gully, about a degree's tilt. And that's just a guess. Is it a degree, or a degree and a half, or 3/4 of a degree, or it's just a way of describing to you what I'm doing. That's a little bit too much, so I'm gonna take half of that. Now I'm gonna lay it in the line, put it in that line. Bit of a degree forward. Halfway. What we're trying to do, we're going to flip this board over and meet in the middle, because I don't want to blow out the other side of these dovetails. When I think I have enough wood removed, be careful with the good chisels that's ground properly, because these edges are almost razor sharp. They will cut your finger. You will bleed if you're not Careful how you handle that chisel. So all right, so we've got that about halfway. We're gonna flip this over. What I want to look at to make sure, because like right here, I did not reach the baseline with the saw. Keep your hand out in front of the chisel, out from in front of the chisel. That's a no-no. So what we're going to do, once again, we're going to take little bites. We'll put that in the baseline. Give it that bit of forward tilt to the top of the chisel handle. Again, the baseline, a little bit of tilt to the chisel. Now I'm going to clean it up. Now you'll see these guys on YouTube. Oh, your dovetails should come straight off the saw. Well, sometimes that happens. But if you watch them and they're honest, some of them are and some of them ain't, you'll see that every now and then they'll do a little bit of cleanup because it's necessary sometimes. So I'm looking on the internal corners of these dovetails, and I'm not allowing my chisel to go through like that, okay? I'll turn this around. I don't want to blow this out. That's not the plan. Not in the plan. I'm just cleaning it up so that everything is nice and clean, just like that joint is, okay? That's the goal. So we're going to pair it just like we paired that one, so that it is nice and clean. and everything looks pretty. What's the deal with that? Yes, pretty is a word. You have to be from Alabama to use it. It's patented and trademarked. So don't let me hear you use it if you're not from Alabama. Okay? Just saying. Alright, those are clean and ready to be transferred to the pen board. In order to do that, and I got some kind of one heck of a scratch there from something. Not sure what it was, but that's alright. It'll all come out in the final planing. So this is number 1. So I want to take number 2. Number 2 needs to go in here. We're gonna put it in like that. So I'm gonna use my number 4 because it's easier to get to. But you guys should have a number 5, and I have both, but I can reach this. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna flush that up with the top of this board, the side of this plane like that. I'm gonna tighten it up real good. Then I'm gonna move this out so that I can do that number right there. Right? What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna do that. And what I wanna do is I wanna look along here, and I'm trying to see, like, I don't want like necessarily a gap, but I kind of want to see, sort of see a little bit of light if I kind of angle myself a little bit between that. Okay, so that is on that board proper. We're going to make sure it's square to the board, and what we're going to do now, we're going to get a marking knife. We're going to put some blooming weight down on that. We're going to start with a light mark first, and then a more aggressive mark. I'm just going to get into that corner. Because what you want to do, you don't want to use so much pressure that you're going to cause this thing to move. But you want to make good solid marks with your marking knife. You're trying to do as precise of a job as you can. So take your time, mark it out properly. You want to make sure you get right back in there in that corner. That's why this knife is longer than a lot of the little spear-shaped marking knives. It will reach into these corners and get in there. I need to make sure I got that. Ugh, I hate when that happens. And so if it moves on you, you might have a problem. With the marking. Just put it back on like I just did. Hope that you got all that. Before I do anything else, I want to mark my waist. And then we're gonna pencil these lines in. And actually, I'm penciling these in but I can see the knife line. So I'm just making those a little bit deeper. The marking knife will take care of it. Alright, so the next thing what we want to do, we want to raise this up. And what I'm going to do is take my square and a knife. I'm going to put that knife there till it falls in that flipping line. We're going to go to that. I'm going to mark these. To the baseline. You don't want to go past it, but if you do a little bit, you're scoring it lightly, so don't worry about it. In the beginning, you're going to make some mistakes anyway, and honestly, even once you reach the point where everyone thinks the cat's meow, you're going to make mistakes. The biggest thing about being a woodworker of any type, but particularly a hand tool woodworker. Alright, now it's trying to go with the rain that doesn't like me. Is being able to fix your mistakes. what I'm going to do is mark it with a pencil as well. I know you can't really see, so let's go here. I can set the pencil right in that knife line. And I can see, I could trace it I could just go like that, but it's easier to go ahead and use this. And you might say, well, that's a lot of work. Well, this is hand tool woodworking. Look, you will get faster and faster as you mature in the craft. But the thing with it is I don't have any desire to worry about speed. That's not something that is an issue to me or anything that I want to worry about. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to leave the line and cut in the waist. And this is just a straight down. A little bit of rag in a can. To the line, down to the straight down. I meant to mention, I'm using a dovetail saw because I have one, but you don't have to have a dovetail saw. Whatever back saw joint saw that you have, that saw is perfectly capable of doing this work. Just fine. And what I want to do, I want to do this right here so that I'm not looking stupid and don't cut that out with the coping saw instead. That would be a technical term called bad. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to cut these big ones out with a coping saw, right? That's what we're going to do. So see this angle here? When I angle that, so you're not cutting into this shoulder to reach this. Okay, so you want to angle that. like that. So you've seen me do this before on the tails. We're going to go back. We're going to come back when we are ready to clean this part out. All right, now we're ready to take the rest of the waste out of these pins. But if you look at this, these tilt. So if I go here and go straight down, I'm going to dig into that. Now, you could flip it over. I've seen people do that. And that's what we're going to do, actually. And I've got like a 3/4 chisel, 3/4 inch or so. It's 20 mil chisel, so. And that is too much chisel. So we're going to go with a 1/2 inch or 12 mil chisel. If that's too wide of a chisel, it'll bruise that corner. I'm going to go halfway, like we did before. Okay. We're going to take it a little at a time. We're going to come into that line, that baseline. We're going to give that little bit of the top of the chisel, that little bit of tilt forward. Not much. We don't need much. And to do this with a smaller chisel, I'm going to lay that chisel in that line. I'm going to use that flat part that I already cut in order to guide this chisel. And I'll do the rest like that on this side, but then we'll flip it over. I'm just going to show this to you so that you can understand what we're doing. It's the same thing that we were doing with the dovetails. Same exact thing, but when you get here, you can't go straight down. You're going to have to tilt it. Okay? We'll put that in the line, tilt it. See what I'm doing? All right, now. I just want to make sure I have that hollow here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the rest of them just like that one. And then we will come back and fit the dovetails to this pin board. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing I did before. I'm gonna put this like that, just because I want something to support this on, and I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna look at it because it's going to want to have some work done to it. So what I'm doing is I'm looking in here at where this might be catching. One of the things you can do, I'm pretty sure that right along there, it can be a little bit bigger, or a little bit, I can trim a little off there. The thing about it is what you want to be careful of is that, first of all, these pins are really small. You can pop them off real easy, but when you start trimming these, there's a way you can trim both this and that helps to hide things that you're doing to fit the joint. Let me angle it back. All right, if I take this chisel and I stay away from this very lip and this front lip, and I just trim like a tiny bit there, and I'm not cutting here or here where it will show, then I can kind of fit this joint. Another thing you can do is you can take your chisel, and as long as you stay away from this corner and this edge, you can take and kind of relieve that a little bit. We're going to do that. So that it will slide or seat a little bit in here, even if it's not quite fitted. It'll help to ease the dovetails. And this is the back, the inside face. It'll help to ease the dovetails into the pins. Some of this stuff I don't show on video because it is, when I do like my regular videos where I'm building something and I want people to watch, you know, to watch me build something, as opposed to this, which is instruction. I don't show it because it would make the videos too long. But this is an instructional video. This is a class. So it's going to take, I'm going to take my time to show you how to do this, because what I'm trying to do is teach you how to do this. So we're avoiding that tip, this corner at the very end, because you'll see that if I hit that corner, that'll create a gap. So anyway, see how much that's seated in there more? Let's tighten that up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look along here, and I'm going to look and see if I see anything that needs a little bit of help. And right here, once again, I'm staying away from this edge, this corner, and this very top surface that will show. Right? And I'm just seeing if I can what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take any of the fuzziness from the saw off. You need a very sharp chisel for this kind of work. If it's not sharp enough, stop and take your time to sharpen it. And I can see right there that there was a piece of, oh, I'm not sure what to call it, saw kerf maybe? Not sure. It's where I cut. I can't explain what it is, but it's like you mark the line and then you cut it, and there's like a little piece of it that didn't quite cut, that I didn't quite get. That I should have. So we're just going to continue to fit this, and I'm doing it in such a way that I'm being really, really careful. And I'm not pushing, because I don't want this to slip out and jab me in the hand. I'm using a slicing motion to cut with this chisel, so that there's at least a modicum of safety there in case something were to slip. And I'm just looking for gaps, and I'm looking for where I think the thing is not being, it's not got enough space. What you're doing when you fit these things, once again, so that you can grok it, is you're staying away from these corners, these outside corners. This is the outside and this is the outside of the box. You're staying away from these outside corners and you're staying away from these outside edges, but you can trim it from like there down where it's not going to show. This side is starting to go. This end here needs some work. What I'm doing is I'm taking that chisel and I'm laying it, I'm not getting up here, I'm laying it like that. And then I'm just trimming that inside face of this pin. So let's see what that did. Anything good? Okay, so let's try. We're gonna go. See what I'm doing? Let's see if I can get that to go down now. Yeah. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to look for any kind of bruised sections. This right here still needs a bit of trim. There it is. And there the joint is. It's not absolutely perfect, but that's a good quality dovetail joint. I don't have any gaps in the bottom here. It's fitted really well. What we would do now, basically, we would take a hand plane come on, baby, I know you can. my smoothing plane. I just cleaned that up. That looks lovely. And that's dovetails. You would do the same for all four corners of the box. And we will be back in the next video. Bless you.